You open your investing app on payday. $25 goes in, right on schedule. You feel good about it. You've done the responsible thing. You've started. But here's what nobody tells you. Compounding doesn't care that you started. Compounding cares about how much you actually give it to work with. And below a certain number, the math simply refuses to move. For decades, the advice has been the same. Start early. Any amount counts. Even $5 a week adds up. It sounds encouraging. It gets people in the door. But it quietly hides a much colder truth about how exponential growth actually behaves. Compound growth isn't a straight line. It's a curve that stays almost flat for years, then bends upward late and only late. Burton Malkiel laid this out plainly in a random walk down Wall Street. The real payoff of compounding shows up in the final third of the timeline, not the first. Which means if your monthly contribution is too small, you can spend 20 years waiting for a curve that never gets the fuel it needs to bend. Think about what a $25 monthly contribution actually becomes. At a reasonable 8% average return, after 10 years, you're sitting around $4,500. Not nothing, but not meaningful either. Barely enough to cover a used car repair. After 20 years, you're near $14,000. After 30 years of consistent contributions, you land to somewhere around $37,000. 30 years of discipline for a number that won't fund 6 months of retirement. Now change one variable. Same 8% return. Same 30 years, but $500 a month instead of 25. The ending balance isn't 20 times higher. It's not even mostly about the 20 times more money going in. It's the compounding itself that behaves differently because there's finally enough principal early on for growth to compound on top of growth in a way that actually shows up on a chart. That account crosses $700,000. Same market, same years, same investor. The only difference is the size of the number that got fed into the machine every single month. There's a name for the moment this curve actually starts to matter. It's called the crossover point. The year your investment gains start outpacing your own contributions. With $500 a month, that crossover arrives somewhere around year 14 or 15. After that, the market is doing more of the work than you are. With $25 a month, that same crossover doesn't arrive until deep into year 25, sometimes later. Because there simply isn't enough principal for 8% of it to outrun a fixed monthly deposit. You're not investing for a shorter version of the same outcome. You're investing for an outcome that, mathematically, may never fully arrive. This is where most personal finance content quietly lies to you. It shows you the 70-year-old curve, the one that goes almost vertical, and says, see, this is what a small amount becomes. What it doesn't show you is that the account spent the first 15 or 20 years doing almost nothing, and that the person funding it needed to survive 2 decades of what felt like failure before the curve finally showed up. Daniel Kahneman's research on loss aversion. The finding, developed with Amos Tversky, that losses feel roughly twice as painful as equivalent gains feel good, helps explain why so many people default to the smallest number that still lets them say they're investing. A small contribution feels safe. It doesn't threaten your lifestyle today. It lets your brain check the box marked handled. But Kahneman's own framework also explains the trap. Because your brain isn't weighing today's $25 against 30 years from now. It's weighing today's $25 against today's alternative. A coffee, a dinner out. And today always wins that comparison, even when the real cost is a retirement that never quite arrives. Thomas J. Stanley made a related point in the Millionaire Next Door. He found that most self-made millionaires weren't high earners who happened to save a little. They were disciplined people who treated their savings rate as the primary lever, not their income. But Stanley's research assumed a savings rate that was actually large enough to matter, often 20% or more of income, funneled consistently for decades. A 3% habit dressed up as investing was never what built those balance sheets. Stanley was describing meaningful contribution, not the appearance of participation. There's also a quieter enemy working against the small contributor. And it isn't the market, it's inflation. If your monthly number stays fixed at $25 for 15 years while prices rise, you're not standing still, you're falling behind. Because that $25 buys less of the future with every year that passes. Dalbar's long-running quantitative analysis of investor behavior research has tracked this same pattern from a different angle for decades. It's rarely the market that fails ordinary investors. It's the gap between what a strategy could return and what an underfunded, inconsistently adjusted version of that strategy actually delivers. So let's walk through what actually happens when you invest $25 a month for 30 years, instead of what you assume happens. Year 1, you contribute $300. Your balance, after modest growth, sits around $312. It feels like nothing, because it is nothing. Year 5, you've put in $1,500 total. Your balance is around $1,800, still nothing you'd notice. This is the part of the curve almost nobody shows you, because it isn't inspiring. It's flat, slow, and quietly discouraging enough that a huge share of people quit before year 10, right before the compounding would have started contributing more than their own deposits did. Here's the twist that reframes everything. The problem was never that you started small. Starting small is fine, even smart, when you're building the habit. The problem is stopping there. Treating $25 a month as a finished strategy, instead of a first draft you're supposed to scale as your income grows, is what quietly kills the entire project. Compounding was never useless because you invested too little on day 1. It becomes useless when day 1's number is still the number 10 years later. This connects to something economists call the latte factor debate. The argument over whether cutting small daily expenses actually moves the needle on wealth. Critics of that framing are right about one thing. $25 a month, held constant, genuinely does not move the needle, no matter how long you hold it. But they're often wrong about the conclusion people draw from it. The answer isn't, small amounts don't matter, so don't bother. The answer is that the amount has to grow with you, or the exponential curve you're counting on simply never gets enough principal to bend. Look at your own contribution today. Not the amount you started with years ago. The amount going in right now, this month. Has it grown since your first paycheck? Has it grown in the last 2 years? If your income has gone up and your contribution hasn't, you're not actually investing in your future self. You're investing in the version of yourself from 3 years ago. And that version needed less than you do now. There's an easy way to check where you actually stand, and it has nothing to do with your balance. It's your contribution as a percentage of your income, not the dollar figure itself. $25 a month meant one thing when you were earning $30,000 a year. It means something completely different, and much smaller, now that you're earning 60. The number on the screen never changed. Its weight relative to your life quietly shrank in half, and nobody sent you a notification to tell you that the fix isn't complicated, even if it isn't comfortable. Every time your income rises, a raise, a bonus, a new job, increase your contribution before your spending has a chance to absorb it. Vanguard's annual How America Saves research consistently shows that the investors who end up with retirement balances large enough to actually retire on are disproportionately the ones who raise their contribution rate over time, not the ones who simply started early and left it alone. Time in the market matters, but time only compounds the number you're actually feeding it, not the number you meant to feed it or the number you started with out of good intentions. So the next time you open that app and see your automatic contribution go through, don't just ask whether you're investing. Ask whether the number is still the right size for who you are now, not who you were when you set it up. Because compounding was never broken, and it was never lying to you. It was doing exactly what the math always does with a number too small to work with. Patiently, silently, almost nothing at all. You open your investing app on payday. $25 goes in, right on schedule. This time, you don't just feel good about it. You actually check whether it's still the right number, and if it isn't, you finally change it.